December 11th, 1941. 4 days after Pearl Harbor, Adolf Hitler walks into the Reichstag. He's about to make an announcement that will seal Germany's fate. At that exact moment, just 12 miles from Moscow, German soldiers are freezing to death by the thousands. Operation Barbarossa has stalled. The Soviets launched their winter counter-offensive 6 days ago. Siberian reinforcements are arriving. Hitler's army is trapped in the worst winter in over 200 years. Temperatures at -40 degrees. Men dying of frostbite. Tanks that won't start. Rifles that jam. And Hitler is about to declare war on the United States of America, the nation with the world's largest industrial capacity, the arsenal of democracy, a country that, until 4 days ago, wasn't even officially at war. The conventional story says this was pure stupidity, that Hitler, in a fit of arrogance, decided to fight the world's greatest industrial power while his army froze in Russia. But the reality is more complex. The United States and Germany were already at war in everything but name. American destroyers were hunting German submarines. German U-boats were sinking American ships. 115 American sailors had already died. Roosevelt had ordered the Navy to shoot on sight, and American military leadership had already decided on a Germany-first strategy before Hitler ever made his declaration. So was Hitler's declaration stupid? Absolutely. Was it also inevitable? That's what this video reveals. This is the story of 4 days in December 41 that changed everything. I'm going to show you exactly what Hitler was thinking, why the declaration seemed rational from his twisted perspective, what was already happening in the Atlantic that made war practically unavoidable, and why this decision guaranteed Germany's destruction. But to understand December 11th, you need to see what happened on December 5th, because 6 days before Hitler declared war, everything had already started falling apart. Before we continue, make a prediction. Do you think Hitler actually had a choice? Could he have avoided declaring war? Comment your guess, and if you're into deep dive history like this, hit subscribe. All right, let's start with the moment Hitler's invasion of Russia collapsed. December 5th, 1941. 2 days before Pearl Harbor. The Soviet Union launches a massive counter-offensive outside Moscow, multiple armies, over 1 million men hitting the exhausted Germans across a 500-mile front. For 5 months, since June 22nd, Operation Barbarossa had been the greatest military offensive in history. 3 million German soldiers, 3,000 tanks, 2,000 aircraft. Hitler had told his generals the Soviet Union would collapse like a house of cards. It didn't. By early December, German forces had pushed to within 12 miles of Moscow. German officers could see the Kremlin through their field glasses 12 miles, but they couldn't take it. And now they were stuck. Freezing. The winter of 1941-42 was the coldest in over 200 years. Temperatures dropped to -40 degrees Fahrenheit, the coldest November, December, January in Moscow's recorded history. German soldiers weren't equipped for it. No winter clothing, equipment not designed for extreme cold, tank engines wouldn't start, rifles jammed, men losing fingers and toes to frostbite, and now the Soviets were attacking. The troops slamming into the German lines were fresh divisions from Siberia. Professional soldiers who'd been guarding the border with Japan, trained for winter warfare, equipped for cold. They'd just been released to move west because of a spy named Richard Sorge. Sorge was a Soviet agent operating in Tokyo. He'd infiltrated the German embassy and the Japanese government. On September 14th, 1941, Sorge sent a message that changed the war. Japan will not attack the Soviet Union. Japan was going south, towards Southeast Asia, the Philippines, Pearl Harbor. Stalin had been terrified of a two-front war. Germany from the west, Japan from the east. Sorge's intelligence meant Stalin could pull divisions, tanks and aircraft from Siberia and throw them at the Germans. That's what hit on December 5th. The German army, exhausted, freezing, low on supplies, suddenly faced professional winter warfare troops. The offensive stalled. Then it started retreating. 2 days later, December 7th, 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. Over 2,400 Americans dead, 8 battleships damaged or destroyed. December 8th, the United States declares war on Japan, but not on Germany. Roosevelt's speech mentions Japan, only Japan, not Germany, not Italy. For Hitler, this looked like a gift. Japan attacking America meant the US would fight a two-ocean war. American focus would split between Pacific and Atlantic. It meant time. Time to defeat the Soviet Union before America could fully mobilize against him. At least, that's what Hitler thought. But Hitler didn't know what Roosevelt, Churchill, and their military chiefs had already decided. A decision made before Pearl Harbor even happened. Here's what most people don't realize about December 1941. America and Germany were already at war. Not officially, not legally, but in every practical sense. March 11th, 1941, 9 months before Pearl Harbor, Congress passes the Lend-Lease Act. The law allows America to send weapons, ammunition, food and supplies to Britain and the Soviet Union without requiring immediate payment. Roosevelt had already declared America the arsenal of democracy in December 1940. By December 1941, Lend-Lease was ramping up. Weapons, aircraft, tanks, trucks pouring into Britain and starting to flow to the Soviet Union. This wasn't neutrality. This was supplying one side of the war. From Germany's perspective, America was arming their enemies, keeping Britain in the war, giving the Soviets equipment to keep fighting. But it went further than supplies. American ships weren't just delivering weapons. They were protecting the ships that carried them. By September 1941, the US Navy was escorting convoys across the Atlantic. American destroyers were sailing with British merchant ships, protecting them from German U-boats using sonar to hunt German submarines. This is an act of war. September 4th, 1941, USS Greer. The American destroyer Greer tracks a German U-boat for over 3 hours, broadcasts its position to British aircraft. The British attack. The U-boat, believing the Greer was attacking, fires 2 torpedoes. Both miss. Roosevelt goes on national radio on September 11th, calls it unprovoked German aggression. Says the German submarine fired first upon this American destroyer without warning. He orders the Navy to shoot on sight any German vessel in American defensive waters. Shoot on sight. That's not neutrality. That's warfare. Germany protested, claiming the U-boat was defending itself after being hunted for hours. Both sides were technically correct, and both sides were now shooting. October 17th, 1941, USS Kearney. German U-boat torpedoes the destroyer Kearney while it's escorting a convoy off Iceland. 11 Americans die. October 31st, 1941. USS Reuben James. A German U-boat sinks the destroyer Reuben James west of Iceland. The forward magazine explodes. The bow is blown completely off. 115 Americans die. Of 7 officers and 136 enlisted men, only 44 survive, all enlisted. Not a single officer. This is 6 weeks before Pearl Harbor. America and Germany are shooting at each other in the Atlantic. American sailors are dying. German U-boats are hunting American warships, all while America is officially neutral. From Hitler's perspective, America was already an enemy. The only difference was the word war hadn't been used yet. August 14th, 1941. 4 months before Pearl Harbor. Roosevelt and Churchill meet secretly aboard warships off the coast of Newfoundland. They issue a joint statement, 8 principles for the post-war world: democracy, self-determination, freedom of the seas, disarmament of aggressor nations. Think about what this means. Roosevelt is still officially neutral. Congress hasn't declared war on anyone. America is technically at peace. But the President of the United States is sitting on a warship with the Prime Minister of Britain, planning what the world will look like after the war ends. Not if the Allies win. When the Allies win. Hitler read the Atlantic Charter. He understood exactly what it meant. America and Britain weren't allies yet in legal terms, but they were partners in every way that mattered. Roosevelt had just announced to the world that America's future was tied to Britain's victory. So when Pearl Harbor happened 4 months later, and Roosevelt asked Congress for a declaration of war against Japan, only Japan, Hitler faced a choice. And that choice was shaped by an agreement he'd made with Japan over a year earlier. September 27th, 1940. Berlin. Germany, Italy, and Japan signed the Tripartite Pact, a mutual defense agreement. Article 3 says the powers will assist one another if attacked by a nation not currently involved in the war. The target is obvious, the United States. But here's the complexity. Japan attacked America. America didn't attack Japan. So technically, the Tripartite Pact didn't require Germany to declare war. Japan struck first. Hitler could have argued he wasn't obligated. But something happened between December 7th and December 11th. December 2nd, 1941. 5 days before Pearl Harbor. The Japanese ambassador in Berlin approaches the German Foreign Ministry. If Japan goes to war with the United States, will Germany join? Germany doesn't respond. December 5th. Japan makes the same request to Italy. Again, no immediate response. December 8th. 1 day after Pearl Harbor, Japan formally requests that Germany and Italy declare war on the United States. December 9th and 10th, Hitler deliberates. December 11th, 1941. Hitler addresses the Reichstag in what witnesses described as a frenzied speech. He blames Roosevelt for the war, claims he's controlled by Jewish influence, accuses the United States of crimes against Germany, and declares war on the United States. Italy issues an identical declaration the same day. The 3 powers issue a joint agreement. Article 1. Germany, Italy, and Japan will wage war jointly against the United States and Britain. Article 2. No separate peace or armistice without complete agreement. And here's what shows Hitler's cynicism. The declaration includes this line, intended as a propaganda accompaniment to the declaration of war. Hitler literally described his own declaration of war as propaganda. After reading the declaration to the American diplomat, Foreign Minister Ribbentrop screamed in rage, "Your president has wanted this war, now he has it." Then Ribbentrop turned and stormed out of the room. The Germans believed Roosevelt had been maneuvering for war all along. Perhaps they were right, but what was Hitler actually thinking? Why did this seem rational? Hitler's views on America were fascinatingly contradictory. On one hand, he admired certain aspects of America, specifically American race laws. When Nazi lawyers drafted the Nuremberg laws in 1935, they explicitly studied and cited United States racial segregation laws. Hitler wrote in Mein Kampf, "The racially pure and still unmixed German has risen to become master of the American continent." He praised America as the one state that simply excludes the immigration of certain races. Nazi legal scholars held conferences where the first agenda item was U.S. race law. They saw America's Jim Crow South as a model, but at the same time, Hitler despised America. He saw American society as mongrelized, racially mixed, weak. He believed democracies were inherently inferior to dictatorships, that they couldn't make hard decisions. He looked at America's performance in World War I and saw a nation that needed 2 years to mobilize. He thought he'd beat the Soviet Union before America could even get its army ready. This contradiction was Hitler's blind spot, because what Hitler underestimated wasn't American society, it was American industrial capacity. Here's the part that changes everything. The Germany First strategy was decided before Hitler declared war, before Pearl Harbor, before Hitler's declaration. American and British military leadership had already agreed. If America enters the war, Germany is the primary enemy. This decision was made at the ABC-1 conference in Washington from January 29th to March 27th, 1941. 9 months before Pearl Harbor, American and British military planners met secretly. They war-gamed what would happen if America entered the war. Their conclusion: Germany is the greatest threat. Germany has the strongest military in Europe, the capacity to defeat Britain, the potential to develop advanced weapons, U-boats threatening Atlantic supply lines. Japan, while dangerous, is secondary. The priority: defeat Germany first, then deal with Japan. Hitler's declaration didn't cause Germany first. Germany first made Hitler's decision catastrophic. If America had decided to focus on Japan, Hitler's declaration might have been a footnote, but that's not what happened. America declared war on Japan on December 8th. Hitler declared war on America on December 11th. And when Congress voted on Germany's declaration later that day, it passed without a single dissenting vote. Compare that to the Japan declaration, which had one no vote. Germany, 0 dissenting votes. Because Hitler had solved Roosevelt's political problem, Roosevelt wanted to fight Germany, but he faced isolationist opposition. Pearl Harbor gave him Japan, but not Germany. Hitler's declaration gave Roosevelt everything he needed, and America immediately implemented a strategy they'd planned 9 months earlier. Destroy Germany first. On December 11th, 1941, Hitler had 3 options. Option 1. Declare war on America. This formalizes what's already happening, shows solidarity with Japan, allows U-boats to attack American ships without restriction, but it brings the world's largest industrial power into the war officially, gives Roosevelt political cover for Germany first, removes any possibility of negotiated peace. Option 2. Maintain the fiction of peace. This avoids formal war, keeps America's focus on Japan, preserves the possibility of negotiation, but it's unsustainable. Because U-boats are already sinking American ships, it betrays Japan. And it doesn't actually change American behavior, because Germany first is already decided. Option 3. Break with Japan. This avoids war with America, focuses entirely on the Soviet Union, but it loses Germany's only major ally. Japan might make peace with America, and it looks weak. Hitler chose option 1. He declared war. Here's the truth. America and Germany were already at war in everything but name. Lend-Lease made America Britain's primary supplier. American destroyers were escorting convoys. American sailors were dying to German torpedoes Roosevelt had ordered shoot on sight. The Atlantic Charter made clear that America and Britain were strategic partners. The Germany First strategy meant that if America entered the war, for any reason, Germany would be the primary target. Hitler's declaration didn't change American behavior. It formalized what was already happening. If Hitler had tried to maintain peace, U-boats would still be sinking American ships. America would still be supplying Germany's enemies. American destroyers would still be hunting German submarines. Germany First would still be implemented. The only difference would be that Hitler would look weak. For a dictator whose entire ideology was built on strength and will, that was impossible. Hitler declared war, and in doing so, he guaranteed Germany's destruction. Because what Hitler didn't understand was what America was about to become. Between December 1941 and May 1945, the United States produced 300,000 aircraft. Germany produced 119,000. The US produced 88,000 tanks. Germany produced 67,000. The US built 2,700 Liberty ships, more tonnage than all other nations combined. American factories operated 24 hours a day. Women entered the workforce by the millions. Entire industries retooled in months. Ford's Willow Run plant produced one B-24 Liberator bomber every 63 minutes at peak production. One bomber per hour. In 1944 alone, this single factory produced 92 million pounds of airframe weight. More than half of Germany's total annual production, nearly equal to Japan's entire 12-month output. Just from one factory. Henry Kaiser's shipyards reduced Liberty ship construction time from 230 days to 42 days. One ship, the SS Robert E. Peary, was built in 4 days, 15 hours, and 29 minutes. From keel laying to launch, 4.5 days to build an entire ocean-going cargo ship. This is what Hitler declared war on. Not just the American military as it existed in December 1941, but the American industrial complex that could turn the entire nation into a war machine. Hitler's declaration guaranteed several things. First, Germany would fight a two-front war, the Soviet Union from the east, Britain and America from the west, eventually forces in Italy, then France. No nation can win against those odds. Second, Germany would face overwhelming material superiority. American production plus British production plus Soviet production meant Germany was outnumbered in everything. Third, none of it mattered. Germany could have the best trained soldiers, the most experienced commanders, the most advanced tactics. None of it mattered when the enemy could replace every loss twice over. Fourth, Germany would face strategic bombing. American B-17 and B-24s joined British bombers in devastating German cities and industry. Fifth, Germany lost any hope of negotiated peace. Article 2 of the Joint Declaration: no separate peace. Hitler had locked Germany into a fight to the death. Was Hitler stupid to declare war on America in December 1941? Yes. Declaring war on the world's greatest industrial power while your army is freezing 12 miles from Moscow is catastrophically stupid. It guaranteed Germany's defeat. It brought American military and industrial might into the war against Germany. It gave Roosevelt political cover for Germany first. It was arrogance, miscalculation, a fatal mistake. But here's the paradox. After the war, economist John Kenneth Galbraith, who'd served in Roosevelt's administration, reflected on what might have happened if Hitler had refused to declare war. He said, "When Pearl Harbor happened, we were all in agony. The mood of the American people was obvious. They were determined that the Japanese had to be punished. We could have been forced to concentrate all our efforts on the Pacific, unable to give more than peripheral help to Britain. It was truly astounding when Hitler declared war on us. It was a totally irrational thing for him to do, and I think it saved Europe." Think about that. Hitler's catastrophically stupid decision to declare war may have actually guaranteed an Allied victory, because without that declaration, Roosevelt might have been forced to focus everything on Japan. Britain and the Soviet Union would have fought Germany alone, with American aid drying up as ships, planes, and tanks went to the Pacific instead of the Atlantic. Was the declaration inevitable? When you look at what was actually happening in December 1941, yes, America and Germany were already at war in the Atlantic. American sailors were dying. German U-boats were sinking American ships. Lend-Lease was supplying Germany's enemies. Germany first had been decided 9 months before Pearl Harbor. If America entered the war for any reason against anyone, Germany was the primary target. The Tripartite Pact obligated Germany to support Japan, and Hitler's ideology made admitting weakness impossible. So was the declaration stupid? Yes. Could Hitler have avoided it? Probably not. Was Germany doomed either way? Yes, because by December 1941, Germany had already lost the war. They just didn't know it yet. Operation Barbarossa had failed. The Soviet Union hadn't collapsed. The Siberian divisions were pushing the Germans back. Britain was still fighting. The Atlantic convoys were getting through. And America, whether it declared war or not, was the arsenal of democracy. Hitler's declaration on December 11th didn't cause Germany's defeat. It just made certain that everyone would recognize it. And in a final irony, by solving Roosevelt's political problem and uniting Congress behind the war, Hitler may have inadvertently saved the very Europe he'd tried to conquer. Here's my question for you. If you were Hitler on December 11th, 1941, what would you have done? Declared war? Maintained peace? Something else? Every option was bad. Drop your thoughts. If this changed how you understand World War II, hit that like button and subscribe for more history that examines the impossible choices leaders faced. Thanks for watching.